5 members of the government on the Public Accounts Committee released a statement yesterday in response to a statement issued by Mr. Paul on the Office of the Leader of the Opposition. To recap what has been going on in the Public Accounts Committee, that body has always met once a week statutorily. And in fact, from time to time, if necessary, it may have a special day where it meets. But it has never been one where we meet twice a week. And in fact, on October 11th, the first meeting after the recess, the opposition moved a motion to meet twice a week without consulting the technical advisors in the committee, who are the Auditor General, the Accountant General, and the Financial Secretary, who have other responsibilities and major responsibilities. They proceeded to vote, and they succeeded. One of the members of the Public Accounts Committee for the government, Bishop Edgehill, was online. He was not permitted to vote. He was not allowed to speak on the issue. In other words, he was blocked from entering into discussion, and therefore this was thought to be deliberate to ensure that they got their way. When I returned on October 18th meeting, I brought a motion to rescind. In Parliament, a motion is made by committee can be removed and a new motion put in its place if it is the view of the majority that it has problems, or the view of the majority of members of the committee that it is problematical. Once again, as in February to May this year, I tried to bring now a written motion under the standing order which is allowed to rescind the motion to meet twicely. We meet twice a week. And my motion was not allowed to be put, just like exactly what Patterson did in the February-May period. The chairman said he needed more time to consider it. It was pointed out this was in the standing orders, and I had consulted the clerk of the National Assembly to ensure that I was in keeping with the standing orders, that I wasn't doing something outside of the standing orders, and that he said he needed more time. He was asked, well, how much more time? And he said that the motion would, he would discuss it, and the motion would come up at the next statutory meeting of the Public Accounts Committee. We asked, when is that? And he said Monday, October the 25th. And we proceeded throughout the meeting to deal with other issues. And when we came to the end, he advised on what would be the agenda, which did not include the motion, which should be on the agenda. It cannot be deferred. And at that point, he then stood up and announced that the meeting will be on Friday, October the 22nd. This is, as far as I'm concerned, deceit. It is deliberate in terms of trying to bully their way through, and to once again, a motion brought by the government, the majority in the committee, is not allowed to be put. You remember the experiences we had with Mr. Patterson. He did not allow it, despite being advised by the Speaker in May 2021 that he was compelled to put the motion. You may recall that he had said that he was going to asterisk the motion, and he was advised by the Speaker he cannot do that. He was compelled to put the motion and allow the motion to be discussed, debated, voted on, and that was it. Mr. Patterson refused to obey even the Speaker's instruction, and then we took the motion to Parliament to remove Mr. Patterson. And that motion that decision of Parliament, that resolution of Parliament, cannot be changed unless there's a motion to rescind that motion that was passed in the National Assembly. So similar in this committee, that is what's going on. Mr. Mayapal makes an argument that there's a lot of work to be done in the committee. And yes, there is. But the public may wish to be reminded that when the when in 2018 the the chairperson, now president, had started dealing with 2016. The 2017 Auditor General's report was pending, and the 2018 Auditor General's report had not been laid as yet. So we have to remember that the delay with holding elections for 14 months, the dissolution of Parliament in December, and no government until August the 2nd, led to a delay of almost 2 years in which the Public Accounts Committee could not meet as the Parliament could not meet. And so in that period, 2018, 2019, were tabled in the House, were tabled and given to the Speaker. And so we also have now 2020, which has just been submitted to the Speaker to bring to the House. We lost all this period thanks to the APNUFC by not obeying the Constitution and not holding the elections within 3 months as required. And ended up, as you remember, we went to the Caribbean Court of Justice, we came back down, we went to the courts over and over again until the declaration of the results on August the 2nd. So if Mr. Mayapal and the APNU-AFC is concerned about the volume of work in the committee, the volume was certainly exacerbated as a result of their behavior in violating the Constitution after a no-confidence motion, and their behavior during the elections in doing everything possible to prevent the declaration of the results. So yes, we have work to do, but they mustn't show shade on the government and say it's we who caused the delay for the number of Auditor General's reports to be dealt with. We also have to recognize that, as I said earlier, that the technical advisors which are provided for in the Constitution and in the standing orders for the Public Accounts Committee are an integral part of the functioning of the Public Accounts Committee. Many times they are asked for advice, they're asked for information, they are there to be there constantly whenever we are there. That is their role. And it's impossible to consider moving a motion for the committee to meet twice a week without consulting, without hearing their views whether it's possible or not. And I'm quite aware that the Accountant General, FS in particular, holds such critical positions in the functioning of government and in the implementation of our programs that to make them sit in the Public Accounts Committee twice a week would lead to a slowing down of the releases and a number of actions that have to be taken by both of them in the government system. So this is not an issue of, well, we want to meet, so we have to meet. This is not an issue. This is an issue where that it would stymie the work of the government in critical areas. Secondly, that the behavior of Mr. Figueira is so reminiscent of the former PAC that it's shocking. That he came in as a new PAC promising that he would be fair and balanced. He has the guidelines of what are the responsibilities of the chairman. And that is that he is to, first of all, balance the rights and interests of both the majority and minority in the Public Accounts Committee, as in any other committee. And he also has to put motions and questions to the floor. He cannot, in a cavalier manner, decide that he's not going to do it. And it's not that he's now doing it in the absence of knowledge. He's had the knowledge and the experience of February, May this year, where the whole issue was dealt with, both by the Speaker and the Clerk, and finally by the House. So this behavior is highly duplicitous, and is an example, once again, of the APNU-AFC's bullyism in the committee, and of course we see it in the House. The office, the staff that have to work, the parliamentary staff that have to work on this committee are petrified. It is not fair. Maybe it's because they're majority women that the chairman thinks he can bully them or other people can bully them. But it has never happened in the House before, all the years, that staff in the Public Accounts Committee are afraid to sit in the Public Accounts Committee. And that gives an indication of how bad things are in the Public Accounts Committee, that the behavior becomes raucous, and sometimes I do admit I do lose it, because it's like tempting me over and over again, and I'm making no inroad. So I lose it too. So I'm guilty of some of the raucous behavior, I admit that. But my behavior, nor the behavior on my side, as far as I'm concerned, is one of intimidation. And I've seen the staff trying to advise the chair on what rules, what laws and stuff he has to follow, and just dismissal, just absolute dismissal of the staff. This matter has to be addressed in terms of the Public Accounts Committee is looking at the period of 2016 to 2020, the period under which APNU AFC government was in charge. Why would we, as the government coming in, not want to examine those accounts, as Mr. Mayapal claims? We are very interested. In fact, I think the opposite is going on. I think Mr. Mayapal is trying to deflect onto the government what he himself is guilty of on his side. That is, they really don't want the 2016 to 2020 annual audit reports, because what we've dug up so far in 2016 is not very savory. We have exposed the levels of corruption in the Ministry of Public Works. We have health coming up. We have local government coming up, all of which we know are paragraphs upon paragraphs by the Auditor General on what are considered to be questionable use of funds and questionable or non-adherence to the financial rules that exist. So one is not sure whether Mr. Mayapal is trying to blame, someone for us for what they in fact don't want. They don't want those reports to be dealt with. And so we hope that, as we always hope, and sometimes they say, you live in hope and die in despair, but I'm not going to die in despair, because there is an avenue for this. If this is the behavior the Public Accounts Committee will continue, and Mr. Figueira, if he's going to be a clone of Mr. Patterson, and allow Mr. Patterson to control the committee from sitting in the parliamentary seat rather than the chair, then he may very well suffer the similar fate as Mr. Patterson, because we cannot allow this level of bullyism in this committee or in any other committee of Parliament. It violates the rights of other MPs, it violates the rights and the functioning of the staff of Parliament to do what they're required to do. And we're not going to allow that to happen.